Hello and welcome to Board Game Trade and Chat UK people. It is another Tales from the Group and we have Kellie Eckley with us tonight. Hi Kellie.
Hello.
So tonight we are going to be talking about two things. The first COVID secure convention and a bit about women in gaming as well.
Cool.
And Kellie knows a lot about both because she's very clever. So Kellie, we were looking at how long you've been part of the group. 3 years. Is that right?
I don't even know how that happened, really.
Was it
2017?
So it wasn't somebody that invited you in, or it wasn't that you went looking for it for something specific? I know I came into it looking for something for X-Wing.
I think it was after we moved to Nottingham, and we'd been having like board gaming evenings in Milton Keynes before we moved and stuff. And then we moved up here, and we knew literally nobody. And I was looking for people to play with, and I think my first post was something about are there any groups locally and things like that, and people were really kind and nice and started chatting and pointing me in the right direction and stuff. So I think I just ambled across the group via some kind of Facebook kind of, here, see these guys, they might be able to help you out, and that's how I ended up here, I think.
Well, that's good, because normally I think these days recommendations on Facebook tend to be things that you'd never want to buy off Wish, all sorts of weird sex toys you didn't know exist, and really random recommendations, shall we say. So yeah, I suppose it's not the worst place you could have stumbled into, is it really?
Oh, I don't know.
So group aside, gaming. Talk to us about you and gaming. How long you've been gaming? How did you start?
Oh, since I was born, something like that. I don't know. We always had games at home as kids. I think the staples were there. Monopoly. I've got this great photo of my three brothers sitting around the Monopoly board looking really angry with each other when they were small. It's brilliant. I share that on Facebook on every opportunity. And we just always had board games, and every Christmas we would get a game, a book and something to eat and something to wear and things. We just always had a lot of games at home. So I had all the 80s kind of classics like, Ghost Castle and
Oh, I love Go Castle.
Yeah, I never got Build a Better Burger though, which I was muchly disappointed about. Do you remember that one?
No, Build a Better. No, it's not what I know. Build a Better.
It was like a McDonald's training scheme. It was brilliant. You had a tall tower in the middle which had a timer on top, and you had little cards that you needed to fill, and you were literally filling McDonald's orders. You needed to build a burger and some fries.
So like an early inception of Kitchen Rush, that sort of thing.
Yes, yeah, but you actually had little sticks to stack the burger things on, and it was amazing. And my best friend had it, and I went round her house, and I loved playing with the little plastic bits of lettuce.
Oh, see, why do I not remember this game? I should see what you said. McDonald's training scheme. No, I've had a post office training scheme. I had the little post office window and all that going on, but I never had a burger training scheme. It's not.
Did you then go into working in the post office or Royal Mail at all?
No, but I did become school librarian and insisted on putting all the books back in size order, which wasn't quite where they went in Dewey Decimal.
I think if I'd have managed to get Build a Better Burger, I would have possibly had a very different career. I possibly would be managing a Burger King now or something.
Yeah, and instead you're not. You are teaching and playing games. Do you get to use playing games as part of work or not?
Sometimes, not as much as we'd like, really. I mean, being an English specialist, there's not a huge amount of gamey games we can play, but definitely we incorporate lots of storytelling games and lots of the features of those. And we talk about decision making and things and problem solving, but not as much as I'd like. Although if I get any opportunity to bust out a code names as a starter, I will definitely do that.
I suppose there are a few sort of wordy games, but yeah, I'm guessing perhaps it lends itself better to maths or history or geography or...
Yeah, and definitely the extracurricular kind of activities that they kind of rope you into putting on. If we can get a board game club running, I'm definitely going to be encouraging that to happen and championing that, because the kind of students you get involved in that are not the ones you'd expect to be enthused about board games. You know, they're the ones that perhaps don't fit in elsewhere, or the ones that are a bit, you know, troublemakers. You know, suddenly have this thing that they can kind of get behind and get involved in, and that's always really nice to see. You know, different groups of students being able to interact in new ways. But yeah, I'm championing it where I can, but I can't honestly say that I'm bringing it into the classroom as much as I want to.
No, I suppose. Well, there you go. But I still think a club would be a good idea. I know we still love lunchtime clubs at school. So, although for us it was a computer club, which mainly consisted of playing Chucky Egg all dinner, not much else.
Great use of your time. Brilliant.
I'd like to think so. I was quite good at it. Was there a particular game that you were really good at then when you were little? Like, if your brothers weren't good at Monopoly, is that because you were excellent at it?
No. I think my dad was quite good at Monopoly. He used to crush them. He didn't mind if he made them cry.
Tough love.
That taught us some important life lessons there. I don't know, what was my favourite game? I loved Legend of Heroes, which was kind of a really basic dungeon crawler. You'd move your piece round and you'd pick up a card and it would tell you what's in that room, and then you'd have to roll a d20 to try and fight it and things like that. And that was the first game that I would always play. You know, if someone said, let's play a game, I'd be like, let's play this one. And everyone went, no. And they wanted to play something else instead.
We liked my grandparents obviously had all the regulars, so Scrabble, Monopoly, Cluedo. I used to love Cluedo. I used to really enjoy Cluedo. My brother didn't like it; he wasn't very good at it. But then they had this really old game, and I can't reach it because it's right on top of the cupboard, and I'm really short. But it's a really old Waddington's game called Ulcers, and it has the most garish 60s circular board. A circular pattern on the board, and you basically have these player boards, which are pieces of coloured card with printing on, and you have to hire a secretary and a finance officer and a director and a CEO for your company whilst not getting an ulcer, and you have to like crew them and pay them. And I used to love playing this, and my family hated it, absolutely hated it. So, but I've been lucky to be able to pick up a game of it. Was it a couple of years ago? I managed to find one really cheap, like £5 on eBay. And I was like, I just have to have it. But I used to play. Did you ever play Key to the Kingdom?
Now you see, if Legend of Heroes was my game, my oldest brother's game was Key to the Kingdom. That was his game, and yeah, that was also one that we'd never say no to, and we'd bust that out all the time. And
love it when you can flip it open and then knock them flying. I bought that as I still haven't played it, but I know it's nice having a copy. It's nice having a copy of it.
I bought an incomplete copy, and I think I'm missing one of the key cards, which is a bit frustrating. So I'm scouring eBay regularly, like, can I find my missing piece?
I'm sure you will. They tend to crop up, don't they? All of a sudden somebody finds one, breaks it down and whacks it all up there for, £1.50 a card or something ridiculous.
We'll totally pay that.
Just to be able to get them all. Right, so let's have a think. Where's the best place to start? Let's start with the Women in Gaming segment. So obviously I got to talk to Millie a bit about this as well from the UKG perspective. Because of the Black Lives Matter movement being, coming to the forefront so much this year, as it should. It's sort of opened up a lot more conversations about other types of representation, and how different groups are portrayed, represented within various circles, industries, and obviously the conversation did come up about board gaming, and it was interesting to note that again this issue of sexism in gaming, of women being represented in gaming, came up, and there were a few sort of talks about this before the summer, I think, this year. And it was something that Eric Lang actually brought up in one of his interviews when they were talking to him about black people in gaming, and he said, well, it's not just about people of colour, it's also about other different groups. And he brought up women in gaming specifically and said, that's look at how that's being treated. So what I was going to ask you about was your experience of this. I was interviewed for a podcast a couple of years back on women in gaming, and I had a very different experience to the other two girls on it. And we broke that down to the fact that it was because I was in the UK and they were in the US, and there were two very different cultures. I didn't have an experience of feeling as alienated as they were, or as pigeonholed as they did. And I think there was an issue there with convention, with people getting over friendly at conventions and consent, which I hadn't seen here in the UK and hadn't experienced here in the UK. So there was like a big divide there. But with both of us being in the UK, then it'd be interesting to see what your perspectives are on that. So if we start right at the very one end of the scale, as somebody who buys games, what do you feel? How does women being represented sort of influence your purchasing of a game?
It doesn't really. I can't honestly say that it does. What am I looking for? I'm looking for a good game that kind of fits what I'm, wanting to fill in my collection, which is, something that I haven't already got one of. Am I looking at names of people? No, not massively at all. So I couldn't even. I was looking at my collection earlier, preempting the chat on this, going, I still don't know who these were made by, because it just doesn't feature highly in my list of priorities. As a female gamer, a woman in gaming, or whatever we want to call it, I don't think I've ever experienced being treated differently. But maybe that's because I frequently don't, exaggerate my feminism. I don't see it as being a gendered arena. We're all here to do the same thing, to play games, to buy games, to share experiences, to do with gaming, and I don't see how my gender fits into that, so I don't bring it to the table, to the conversation at all. So I guess I don't really think about it in those terms, because I haven't been personally affected by it. It's probably something I need to look at, but yeah.
I know. Well, I've got to say I agree with you on this. It's not that I don't think there shouldn't be more representation. When I went through my games, I saw, there aren't a lot of female names on those games. A lot of them were artists. The ones that I did find, which were brilliant artists. But it isn't something I go looking for when I buy. So I'm with you on that. I see a game and think, well, will I enjoy that mechanism? Will I enjoy playing that? Do I know who I can play that with? Is there a point me buying it if somebody else has got a copy? But it's not something I've been actively looking for. And I think it wasn't until this year, as things have progressed, that I've been aware of how few women there seem to be actually in the industry, in sort of designer, production, publisher roles, as opposed to quite a lot of reviewers, bloggers, and the social impact. There seems to be a lot. So yeah, I'd not noticed it before, to be quite honest.
So I mean, why is that? Is it because it's a male-dominated industry? Because I was talking to someone earlier today, and they were kind of suggesting that perhaps one white guy started doing this thing, and then his friends got involved, and they happened to be white guys as well, and then they got their friends involved, and as an industry, it's kind of developed in that way, and it's pulled just due to friendships, connections, networking, hasn't pulled as many people in from those other groups as it could have done. It could easily have started, with a person of colour or a woman, and the whole industry would look very different at that point. But also, if we're talking about representation, this knee-jerk reaction to go out and, we must find more female designers, we must find, more female. Is it helpful? Are the first people jumping up saying me the best people, or are they just the first ones who are throwing their hat into the arena? Because if you are I'm going to say this, if you are a man who is in the process of developing a game or whatever, you have a lot of competition from a lot of other men at the moment, and what you produce does need to be good, I would say. But if we have this knee-jerk reaction to, there's a gap in the market, we've got to fill it, we've got to be, there's got to be some level of equality there, we need more women, we need, more, ethnic diversity. Are those people who immediately are there ready to fill that gap? Are we just producing their content because, they're the ones there wanting to participate?
And that's a really good point, actually, because it's not that we don't think that there are people out there who are good enough, But you're right, if people do things as a knee-jerk reaction instead of actually researching it and considering it, then what they might bring to the table and what they might put up there into the public view is not the best of what there is, and that doesn't help the cause any.
No, I mean, it potentially dilutes it. I was reading a literary journal earlier, and my university mentor was kind of chairing that discussion, and she was talking about black women in literature, and how the publishing industry is dominated by white middle-aged women, and those publishers don't necessarily, those editors and publishers don't necessarily ask questions about the quality of the writing that they are looking at, because they think it's, oh well, that's just a cultural thing. We won't edit that bit because we don't fully understand it, and we're not going to ask those questions, because they're black and they must know what they're writing about.
And you don't want to cause offence by wading into somebody else's. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And these women were discussing in this kind of interview that actually they want to be edited as harshly as their peers, because not doing so is doing them a disservice. Treating them, giving them special treatment isn't treating them equally; it's treating them specially.
Yeah.
So do we need names? Do we need genders on things? Do we need to know who makes it? If it was a level playing field, we wouldn't need to know those things anyway, would we?
No, I suppose it would all be no names, no ages, and just submit things and get them evaluated on merit.
Yeah.
Yeah. In an ideal world, wouldn't that be good?
Utopia.
But yeah, there is the prejudice. So what about so you feel that you've not personally experienced a harsh prejudice, even when you've been into game stores to buy games, when you've stuck your head in Games Workshop to pick up figures, if you've tried to join in a gaming session somewhere in a group, you've never had somebody look at you and say, well, we don't think you'll like this, we don't think this is for you, or are you picking up a present for somebody, or have you ever encountered anything like that?
No, possibly in a Games Workshop one time when I walked in, and there was a very young lad there who was running the place, and he kind of looked at me like a unicorn had walked into the store.
That's what we all look at you.
What is this? But no, it was always still enthusiastic. Like, can I show you all these things? Look at them, all my beautiful things, my precious, etc. And they were all enthusiastic. I don't think I've ever come across someone who was just presuming I was buying stuff for a guy. But again, I guess I don't present myself as a stereotypical woman when I'm going about these tasks. I'm generally dressed quite, I suppose, masculinely when I'm walking in, and I frequently get misgendered anyway, so maybe they don't look at me in that way for that to be a problem for me. I just not even in work. I don't think I've ever. See, I can't imagine you.
I can't imagine you being misgendered. I noticed that when you said something about on Facebook the other day, and I thought, I can't picture it.
I got called sir twice today. Twice.
You just command respect. That's what it is. We're all scared of you.
No, that's not true. That's not true.
No, well, I always think that I'm quite a tomboy, and I wander into game shops in my jeans with my t-shirt on and my Converse on and hoodie and schlep around a bit. So I'm frequently surprised when people say to me, "Oh, I think you're very feminine."
Yeah,
because I don't see myself as particularly feminine, and I said I've not experienced that. Maybe that's different. Maybe if I strutted in with my heels on and my work suit and some false nails and all my hair done up and a trowel full of makeup on, maybe I would get different treatment. Maybe people would slip into habits. Who knows?
I think so. I think people, respond to gender stereotypes quite a lot. So, and that's ingrained through, generations and generations of just really, crappy parenting, I guess. That's the thing that you do. I might try it one time. I might get myself dolled up and
let's get dolled up and disappear off to Fanboy 3 and see what happens.
Oh, no, Fanboy 3 is a safe space. We know this. Let's pick somewhere else.
No, and they know us too. So
yeah, they'll be like, "What are you looking like that for?"
Yeah, we'll have to pick somewhere completely different. This is it. This is going to be a new segment on the group. Nobody knows this yet. Leanne and Kellie mystery shopping. This is what we're going to do.
Secret cameras, like
Yeah.
those body cam
We can put one in your
things that the
necklace,
police
just in
have.
the centre of those rings, though. Just put a little secret camera in.
Yes, yeah, I'll do that.
We can look around. So, obviously, as a member of the wider gaming community, aside from some misgendering, you've been all right.
Yes.
What about the flip side of this? Conventions, meeting people. Have you found those generally accepting, open arms?
See, I'm kind of a convention newbie. I kind of went to 2 and then just did one myself.
You had the measure of them all by then, right?
I was like, yeah, I've done 2. 3 actually.
Which ones did you? So which ones have you done?
I went to Games Expo. That doesn't really count. I did that one twice. I've been to Aircon 1.5 times.
Okay.
And I went to Bastion.
You did?
Oh, I did Field of Games as well. But that's.
You did last year, yes, I remember.
But yeah, I don't really think I've been to enough to really kind of have been exposed to horrible people. Again, I went to all of the ones I've been with friends or to meet up with friends, and I've kind of mostly stayed in my friend bubble because I wasn't quite brave enough to go out and be randomly, meeting strangers and stuff. But, the strangers that were there weren't creepy. So, and there weren't any comments and everyone was pleasant. So again, I just haven't experienced it, and I certainly haven't seen it with any of my other female friends either. So
that's really positive.
I'm probably the worst person to talk to about this topic.
No, well, I suppose in some senses it's good for us to talk to a variety of people because we can see if there are bad experiences, what they are and what to do about them. But on the flip side, this does show that not everybody's getting tarred with the same brush. There are people who will go out of their way to make, to be open, to be inviting, to create a safe space, to I know that when I first joined one of the gaming groups I went to in Preston, I was paranoid about walking back to the car on my own after the gaming session. And lots of people stood up and said, we will walk with you, we'll come back with you, we'll make sure you're okay, you get back to your car safe. And, if I walked into a pub full of people and said, can anybody walk me back to my car? That would be the stupidest thing in the world to do. But for some reason, being in a group of gamers, it was okay. And I was like, oh yeah, please, yeah, so somebody, that'd be great. So I think it's good that we show the positive side as well as the negative side, and show that lots of people are working really hard to be inclusive. And it's obviously paying off if these are the experiences we're having, and we're having positive experiences. Yeah,
I just haven't met any horrible people yet. I'll keep looking for you, and I will report back if I find any.
If you find them, you bring them back to me, and then we'll get Chris to drop his hammer on their head. It'd be great.
Yes.
And then, like you say, you did a few different conventions. You thought, I'll try one in a field, I'll try a really huge one, I'll try one further up north, and then I'll just make my own.
And the one in Wales.
The one in Wales, yeah, okay. Yeah. I'll try an exclusive bit. But you've tried lots of different types of con before you decided, I can do this. And you did.
Yeah, I only did it because someone told me I couldn't do it, and that annoyed me. So I did it anyway.
So how long ago did you... Because you started sort of with that idea before the restrictions came into place in March, before COVID shut everything down, didn't you? This was already an idea for your birthday that you could do. Yeah,
I wanted to go back to Vegas again because I did that when I was 30, and I thought I could do that again when I'm 40. That'd be brilliant. And then I thought, no, actually, what have I done for the last few years for my birthday? I've had people around for games, and that's been great. My house really isn't big enough now. Let's do something a bit bigger. And we started looking at, community centres and stuff like that. And then I thought, well, let's just have a lot of space. Let's do something bigger. And I started looking at places so that I could have all of my friends there because it was for a big birthday. And then I thought, well, why not just make some new friends? That might be something nice to do for my 40th. And that was always in my mind, I was going to pay for a big birthday party anyway, so as long as it comes in cheaper than Vegas, I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
And so I did, and so it was over a year in the planning, so nearly 2 years really where I was mulling it over and thinking about I'd like to do something like this. But kind of a year in the planning, everything picked up over the last sort of 6 months, 8 months kind of thing. But it was before that, we'd got the hotel booked and everything before COVID had really, tried to put the mockers on things. And then I still thought I could probably make it work, looking at all the various bits and pieces. I think I can still do this. And it wasn't really bloody mindedness. It was just a, if we can, we should kind of thing. Because I'd seen quite a lot of my friends over the lockdown period get really, really down, really depressed, really isolated, and all of them had been really, really careful. Most of, a large number of them had been shielding, and they wanted to come and do something. And at the point where they could, they wanted to, but they wanted to do so in a way that meant that they could, remain safe and remain protected from that. And so I thought, can I do this and not kill my friends?
And I'm pleased to say you did manage to do it and not kill any of us. That was great.
There was lots of paperwork involved in not killing my friends. And so I sat down and worked it out, and I thought, well, I can. And these people really need it. And I think it would be good for people's mental health to come out and see other people who, are in a similar situation, and do the thing they love. And so we did. So we did it. It was good.
So we did, and it took a lot of work, like you say, getting local authorities on side. Lots of. I presume you had lots and lots of conversations with the hotel, or did they manage to sort of knock out a lot of the protective measures quite quickly? And
the hotel, bless them, they'd never done anything like that before. They've never done a board game event. What is this? What is this magic? They were very excited, but very, I don't know what to expect kind of thing. We had the hotel manager who was there looking after us the entire way, and I think I probably know everyone who runs that particular hotel chain now, right up to director level, because they all had to be signed off and risk assessments to the nth degree, making sure we'd complied with every single thing we could possibly comply with. But so they were doing the things from their end. I was double checking it. I was doing things from my end, checking with various authorities. I probably have read enough legislation now to be a qualified civil servant. So I'm seeing a career change coming on. But we've pulled it off.
Kellie Eckley, COVID event planner.
Ah, yes.
Well, that's it.
And now I wanted to stick around a bit longer so that I can, cash in on that.
Well, that's it. If you don't kill them off in year one, they'll come back for year two, right?
Yes, that's right.
This is how it works. But yeah, I mean, all the feedback I'd heard about the event was positive, and that people felt safe, people felt secure. There was so much space. There was a lot of social distancing. You had the screens, you had the PPE, you had even stricter rules enforced in the communal areas by the hotel, who were being very strict themselves. Yep. So I think it's really good in that for a lot of people, myself included, trying to come to that event was the first step back onto the social ladder.
Yeah, definitely. Like, some people haven't seen anyone in months.
Well, this is it. And I mean, I found it very difficult. I think I found it more difficult than some people did, because I did a lot of things all at once. That was a meal out, that was socialising, that was public space with lots of people, and I'd not done that. Whereas other people had taken baby steps throughout the summer and said, oh, well, I've been out for lunch with my partner, or we took the kids out for a meal, or I went into town and went to a pub. And I'd not done any of these things. But it all seemed to be done in a very safe manner. There's been lots of praise for you and for the hard work that you've put in to get it up and running and to get it to work. I've heard different groups talk about the fact that they've come to you for help, that they're looking at using some of the not sort of taking your paperwork and using it, but taking some ideas from what you've done, taking the links that you've signposted on the government website as to what is covered and how, and using that to start getting game groups up and running again, which is really good, because so many people will have been counting on having that regular interaction, like you say, will be wanting that weekly game group back. So the fact that you've done this has created a template to follow. and a proof that this can be done, and
Yeah,
it can be done in a
definitely
safe manner.
proof of concept with the guinea pigs. Would I recommend anyone tries it? Not really, no. No. Wasn't, particularly cost effective. We hemorrhaged money left, right and centre. And, if I hadn't have had this budget put aside to pay for a birthday blowout, it wouldn't have been profitable. It's just not something that I would recommend other people, be trying on a larger scale. Certainly when you look at the things that we had to do, you wouldn't even be able to scale them up to any of the larger events. It just, there would be no point. You would, lose so much money on having to do that. I mean, the rules have now obviously changed again, the legislation's changed again, and people will have to go back to the drawing board again. And, I'm more than happy to help people through that as well, even though I've kind of stopped looking at it from my perspective. Yeah, I think probably we're not going to see much in the way of any bigger events until restrictions are, hugely relaxed, because the costs involved in just getting them up and running so that you can have people safely in a room, it is just shocking. We had to buy twice as much floor space in the hotel than, we wanted, and I wanted it to be quite spacious to begin with, and all the other extras as well. So yeah, but smaller, gaming groups that meet weekly and whatnot in community centres and things like that. There's definitely scope for them to be able to start back up and with mitigation and things like that.
That's it. So like you say, on a small scale, it's doable. And,
Small
and
scale.
I suppose you've proved that on a big scale, an even bigger scale, it could be, but it's not what needs to happen. Like you say, it's not going to be profitable.
Yeah.
It's not going to have the desired effect. It's going to be much trickier. And like you say, until restrictions are lifted, it's going to be into the start of next year before we see what's happening. I think. I know that some people are talking about the fact that there should be GridCon later this year. There should be Midcon. There'll be another StabCon around Christmas. And then we head into Bastion and Aircon territory. And yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens with that, and whether things get lifted enough for some of those to run or not, or whether it just ends up people going away for a weekend on their own, or in a group of 6 doing their own thing.
I think probably that will happen more, and that will help build people's confidence as well, going out and gaming in person with other people again, building up to those larger events and things. But I mean, some larger con venues have benefits over others. I mean, Midcon's held at the, I want to say Hallmark Hotel, but they have a similar setup to where we were at Harbin House, in that they have access to multiple rooms that are separated out, rather than having one just big open gaming space. And we were able to operate because we were able to say these are separate rooms, and we have no more than 30 people in, and I don't think we had more than sort of 18 people in any room. I was going to say,
I don't think any of your rooms hit 20. I know the only room that I actually gamed in was the very safe room for people who'd been shielding, and for those of us with health issues, that we had exclusive access to this room. And I think the largest point, there were about 8 people in it. So we had a lot of space, but I think places like the Hallmark Hotel and Midcon probably have more ability to utilise the spaces more creatively, to be able to work with any guidelines and legislation that kind of comes out than other venues. No, I think you're right with that, because if I remember rightly, because Martin Anster was saying, he said you went to Midcon. The main room at Midcon that they use as the main room actually has a partition, doesn't it, from one end to the bar, so they can shut that off. Then you've got the 2 smaller rooms the other end, and then 3 smaller rooms around the corner. At the front of the hotel. So you're right, there's a lot that could be done there. They've got some flexibility, whereas somewhere like Manicon, have you been to Manicon?
No.
Manicon, it's a beautiful gaming space, one huge oak beam timbered apex roof with one glass of wall, so you've got natural light coming in. But apart from the little 18xx room and the bring and buy room, that is your room. So everybody is in one huge room, and there is loads of space, loads of lines of tables. There's always space to game.
Yeah.
You'll never short of a seat. But in a scenario like this, where you talked about the way that you've managed to mitigate it and fit everything into the legislation, that's not possible there, because they just don't have the access to be able to do that. I don't know if there are more rooms upstairs in the building, or if they've got the ability to somehow break it down. But from what I remember from going into it, there are venues like that aren't going to be able to do that.
Yeah, and the waters are muddied by the if they're serving food, then they can apply the guidelines that kind of go with restaurants and things. In which case, you can. Have you been to a restaurant yet, Leanne?
Only the one in the hotel on Friday.
Okay. So again, you can have, if it's a 90-seat restaurant, you can have 90 people in there, but they have to sit in their bubbles and they're not allowed to move from table to table and things like that. So larger, more open spaces could get around, not get around things, but work with the guidelines that kind of fit in with that. But again, they have to hit certain criteria for those guidelines to apply, and
you have to trust
changing.
people not to wander around.
To be fair, though, as we saw from the other weekend, people don't really wander around very much, at small game-focused board game conventions. They, sit at a table for a couple of hours, might get up, get another game, sit back down at the same table.
No, it was quite good. I mean, a lot of people seem to stick to groups. I think it was one thing. In fact, I think the only negative thing that was mentioned to me about the whole convention was a couple of people said they like to go to a convention, and while they're between games, they like to go around everybody's tables and lean over their shoulders and have a look and see what there is. And they obviously couldn't do that this time. They didn't feel comfortable, and they knew it wasn't appropriate to do it. And they said that was the only thing they missed, if anything. That was what they missed.
I'd go with that. And obviously there was the desperation for a bring and buy that we couldn't possibly have.
No, but we had a sell and deliver. Right?
We had a sell and bring.
Sell and bring.
I can't remember. Sell and bring. So there were a few key things missing that, next time we will do better. Yeah.
Well, hopefully, like you say, by the next time you manage to do one of these, the restrictions will be down, things will be very different. And some of the measures might stay because they'll be good practice, and others won't be required anymore.
Yeah, I think people quite liked having quieter rooms with a lot more space, actually, and there was a lot of. I spoke to 3 or 4, really quite socially anxious people over the course of the weekend who said, I don't normally come to these things at all anyway, but my friends texted me and said, come, you've got your ticket, come anyway, because it's really, really, really super open and safe and things. And they came along and they were really grateful. So I don't think I'd want to have a completely filled space again where we have, everyone sat on top of each other. You still need those wider open, more chilled, emptier spaces for the most anxious folk, I think.
Oh, that's fair enough. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm excited. I think you did well. You've got notes on the chat. Chris said, very well done, Kelly, great work. And then there's, I cannot pronounce it, Krakaziabra said, great con, individual goodie bags at the start were a nice touch, made it feel super friendly, which was great because, like you said, that meant less customer contact, didn't it? No reception desk, no reception desk, grab your bag, off you go. And it gave some people some stuff to talk about right at the beginning, to put them more at ease and things. I don't know, there were some good bits. I'm sending the feedback forms out this week, so I will let you know how that goes. I'm sure they'll be overridingly positive, because in the face of it all, you pulled off quite a feat. And like I said, I think it gave a lot more people confidence to start branching out and sorting their groups out again and becoming a little more social again. And hopefully, if they can fit that in with this rule of 6, then gaming will continue and people will feel slightly less isolated and slightly less alone, and just be able to reach out to their friends and their groups again and find those support branches and get them back. because I know that I'm somebody who has a sort of a support network that's spread out, and I rely on events like this to kind of bring you all together into one place so I can get at you. And being isolated, especially I'm working from home. I've just been invited to continue working from home to the end of October. It can be really isolating.
So envious.
You say that, but I swear, with 3 adults and a small child, my house feels tiny. It's very claustrophobic. I have workmen next door putting up a huge extension and knocking down adjoining walls, and I still have the back doors open just because it makes the house feel slightly less small, regardless of the noise. So we shall see. We shall see how that goes. But I'm hoping for more events. I'm hoping that this starts to pick up, and you definitely laid a good template for it. Definitely. And the hotel weren't scared off.
The hotel.
We didn't freak them out by all the geeks.
These guests were amazing. These guys can come back anytime.
Yay.
They were model guests. They were really pleased. Again, I think part of it was relief that people weren't all on top of each other and taking the mick with all the rules and stuff that we'd put in place, and we didn't have to exercise any of the processes or procedures that we'd put in place to deal with people who were breaking the rules. So I think part of their reaction was relief. Thank God. They didn't do anything which caused us to be shut down. But I think genuinely their eyes were opened to running that sort of event now, because they're used to doing corporate training and things like that. So this was a new kind of thing for them, and they're definitely happy to have people back and do that kind of thing again. So board gamers, they're a good bunch. They behave themselves. They're nice.
Yeah, I suppose it must have been difficult, like say, if because they've got this huge convention centre. Yeah, if they're not used to, if you're saying I want to rent 4 rooms, and they go, great. Well, what sort of seating do you want? Do you want no, none of that. Oh, do you want an overhead projector? No, none of that. Imagine them all going, teas, coffee, snacks served. No, we're good. We don't need any of that. We just want a room, just a big room, lots of tables.
The first contract they drew up, and they're like, what about this? I'm like, no, that's not what we want at all. And I just sent them a bunch of stuff saying, these are the floor plans, this is what we need. We need teas, coffees, we need them, at this time in this place. And we're going to run a badge system, and people are going to be self-serving themselves various bits and pieces. And they're like, oh, that's a bit scary. But they went with it, and they tried something new. And everyone who came and tried a slightly new con experience, and I'm really pleased that it turned out the way it did. And I haven't really, no one had anything negative to say so far.
Good. Oh man, so that's everything that's happened recently. That's your gaming experience from year dot to now. That's everything that's happened in the past 2 weeks. Whilst I want to add that Kelly was also starting a new job as a teacher that weekend, and submitting a dissertation for a master's, because there's nothing like doing it all at once. They say we can have it all. You are proof we can have it all.
Mad. I'm just mad. That's what it is. Too many.
So going forwards, future. Have you got any local gaming groups that are starting to come up and run yet, or is there anything like that on the cards for you?
I'm just going to sleep for 6 months. I think I'm done doing things for a bit. I might invite some people around my house to play some games, but I'm not really. Nothing. My schedule was, for someone, for a person in lockdown, my schedule was way too full for the last 6 months. So I'm just going to enjoy having some R&R time, I think, and decide what I'm going to do next. Yeah.
Yeah, which hopefully is meet up with me for a game in a few weeks.
Yes.
No, you have to say it with more conviction than that, otherwise people will think you're not coming.
No, I'm coming, definitely. If
please
guidelines and
popular.
restrictions allow us to be together, I will come and play games with you. Not a problem, yes.
Yeah, even if you go down to the rule of 2, we're good. We just find a cafe somewhere and an exit game and we're sorted.
Yeah, or a field if we can't meet indoors. Yeah.
I'll bring my tent, you bring your tent. This we can do.
Yes. Just checking I've still got a tent. Yes, I've still got a tent.
I have a teeny little tent. I can borrow my neighbour's tent. I did that last summer for Field of Games. I borrowed Lisa's tent and that worked just fine.
I bought a 6-man tent for Field of Games this year and then it didn't happen. So I've got a 6-man tent that I have never put up. Yeah. And I'm actually a bit scared of it. I got the instructions out to look at it, and I don't really understand how to do that.
No, it's a challenge. We'll make it work. Make it work.
I think I probably need a helper to make it work. But yeah.
Yeah,
Will you
there
be
are
my
plenty of
helper?
us there. I'll be a helper. we will figure it out. We will figure it out. But there's enough of us with the tents, though. I'm sure we can make it happen.
Yes, definitely.
Oh, man. Right then. Well, I'm just checking. There are no other questions that we seem to have missed.
Cool.
No, absolutely fine. So thank you so much for joining us and being a part of our Tales from the group. If anybody else has any questions, anything they want to ask, then chuck them on the thread and we can look at them. You can always comment after the fact. Watch this back if it's not live, and we will put them at Kelly's. Chris says we can come and play at his. There you go. Blackpool trip.
Excellent. Blackpool. Off to Blackpool.
Kiss Me Quick Hats and Blackpool Tower and Rock and walks on the prom. There you go. Sorted.
Donkeys. Do they still do donkeys? We're probably not allowed to do donkeys
know.
anymore.
There must be. Well, I don't know.
A bit passé, isn't it, donkeys?
There must be a humane way to. If they're doing it, there must be a humane way that they do it now. I don't know. I don't remember ever having a donkey ride when I was a child.
Maybe they're robot donkeys.
Oh dear. So this is
Cyborg
Kelly's new
donkey.
thing. She's going to invent a board game, and the theme is cyborg donkeys in Blackpool.
I am now. Okay, that's my next 6 months sorted.
We'll put you in touch with Paul Harris, and the two of you can thrash something out and make it great. I'm sure you can.
That seems good. Yeah, totally doing that.
Oh man! But thank you to everybody who's joined in for joining us. We will thank you again, Kelly, and we will see you all soon. Bye bye.
Yeah. Thanks. Bye.